Iran for a rare look inside the country. CNN operates in Iran with the permission of the government, but maintains full editorial control of the reports.
At 4 hours 47 minutes local time, an Iranian F-4 Phantom locked its fire control radar onto an American stealth fighter that, according to every Iranian sensor in the region, should not have existed. The lock held for 11 seconds. 11 seconds that cost Iran more than they will spend replacing everything they lost that morning. The F-35C Lightning II is a fifth-generation carrier-based multi-role strike fighter built around one core idea: the enemy cannot kill what they cannot find. Unit cost: roughly $110 million per aircraft. Iran's entire annual defense budget runs approximately $10 billion. The United States spends more than that every 19 days. That gap is not a coincidence. It is a deliberate, sustained, generational policy decision made in concrete and silicon and jet fuel. But on this particular morning, the math was stranger than that. Because the F-35 that crossed into Iranian airspace was not carrying bombs. It was not hunting radars. It was not assigned to destroy anything. It was assigned to get shot at. And the pilot climbing into that aircraft fully understood that being targeted was not a risk of the mission. Being targeted was the mission objective. Surviving it was the only bonus on offer. Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison, call sign Viper 1, completed his pre-flight checks on the darkened flight deck of USS Abraham Lincoln as the carrier held position in the northern Arabian Sea, 280 nautical miles southeast of the Iranian coastline. The deck illuminated only by dim red combat lighting. The ship running in emission control, meaning every non-essential electronic system shut down to reduce the carrier's electromagnetic signature to the minimum possible. His aircraft carried two AIM-120 advanced medium-range air-to-air missiles for self-defense and a full internal fuel load. No bombs, no targeting pods, no air-to-ground weapons of any kind. The low doubt of an aircraft that was not planning to start anything, only to survive whatever got started at it. Steam Catapult 1 launched Morrison into the pre-dawn darkness at 4 hours 12 minutes local time. The F-35 climbed through broken cloud cover at full military power, shut down its radar, disabled its transponder, and became exactly what Lockheed Martin spent decades and roughly $400 billion in development costs designing it to be: a ghost with a pulse. 300 nautical miles to the northwest, already on station at 60,000 feet in international airspace, an RC-135V Rivet joint reconnaissance aircraft orbited in a slow racetrack pattern above the Gulf of Oman. The Rivet joint is not a fighting aircraft. It carries no weapons of any kind. What it carries instead are sensor suites capable of detecting, recording, and geolocating every radar emission, every radio frequency transmission, and every electronic signal produced by any air defense network within several hundred miles. The aircraft costs approximately $212 million per airframe, and the 30-plus specialized intelligence operators aboard it represent decades of combined training in signals collection and electronic warfare analysis. Their job that morning was straightforward to describe and extraordinarily difficult to execute. Wait for Iran to try to kill Morrison. Record everything Iran used to try. Bring it home intact. The F-35 was the bait. The Rivet joint was the trap. Morrison was the triggering mechanism. And nobody on the Iranian side of the equation knew any part of that arrangement. At 4 hours 35 minutes local time, Viper 1 crossed the Iranian coastline at 45,000 feet, deliberately routing close to known radar installations along the coast near Bandar Abbas. He reduced throttle slightly, a calculated and deliberate reduction in speed that made his already minimal radar cross-section marginally more visible on certain frequency bands. This was not pilot error. This was the plan. You make yourself just detectable enough to provoke a response. Then you survive the response. Then you bring home everything the response revealed about the people trying to kill you. Aboard the Rivet joint, sensor operators watched Iranian coastal acquisition radars cycle from standby to active search mode at 4 hours 38 minutes local time. Then a second radar site came up. Then a third. The electromagnetic picture building across their displays like a city lighting up at dawn, except every light on that map was a military installation that had just identified its own location, frequency, and capability to American intelligence systems. Captain Sarah Chun, mission commander aboard the Rivet joint, watched the picture develop and kept her voice level. They're coming up. Record everything. At 4 hours 47 minutes local time, Iranian air defense controllers at Bandar Abbas detected an anomalous radar contact. Something small, moving fast, operating at altitude deep inside Iranian airspace with no filed flight plan, no active transponder, and no response to repeated radio challenges on guard frequency. The contact appeared and disappeared from radar as Morrison's F-35 crossed different sensor coverage zones, each disappearance confirming what the controllers already suspected. This was not a civilian aircraft that had wandered off course. This was a stealth aircraft making itself selectively visible. The order went out in under 4 minutes from first confirmed contact. Scramble interceptors. 6 aircraft. Find it and engage if hostile. 6 F-4 Phantom fighters launched from Bandar Abbas Air Base in pairs, their General Electric J-79 turbojet engines lighting afterburner in twin columns of orange-white fire visible from 15 miles in the pre-dawn darkness. The F-4 Phantom is an aircraft designed in the late 1950s. Iran's fleet consists of upgraded variants, but the fundamental airframe is approaching 6 decades old. Iran flies them because alternatives in meaningful numbers are limited. Their F-14 Tomcat fleet, purchased from the United States before the 1979 revolution, has been maintained through 4 decades of improvisation, cannibalizing parts from grounded airframes, and occasionally successful smuggling operations. The Phantoms are what Iran has. They are what Iran launched. And the pilots climbing their aircraft into Iranian airspace that morning were skilled, experienced, and completely unaware that launching was exactly what the Americans had driven 3 hours to provoke. What Major Hassan Karimi, leading the Iranian intercept formation, did not know was that the moment his 6 aircraft went to afterburner and their fire control radars went active, every electronic warfare system aboard the Rivet joint 300 nautical miles away locked onto the emissions like a targeting solution. Radar frequencies, pulse repetition rates, scan patterns, communication frequencies. The specific upgraded firmware signatures on each F-4's fire control system, all of it flowing into recording systems simultaneously, building an intelligence picture that Iranian air defense planners had spent years trying to keep secret. They kept it secret right up until they needed to use it. Karimi's formation split into a bracket intercept geometry, a textbook pattern designed to eliminate an intruder's available escape routes by controlling multiple axes simultaneously. 2 aircraft pushed north to cut off retreat toward international waters. 2 angled east to deny lateral displacement. The lead pair climbed toward Morrison's last detected position at maximum available altitude. On paper, the Iranian formation was executing correctly. The geometry was sound. The tactics were appropriate for the threat assessment they were working from. Morrison had already moved 30 degrees left while they were climbing and was now 18 nautical miles from where the Iranian radars expected him to be. The engagement that followed lasted 9 minutes and covered roughly 200 cubic miles of Iranian airspace. 6 fighters hunting 1 aircraft in pre-dawn darkness, each Iranian pilot working his radar in search mode, sweeping and re-sweeping the sky where their fire control computers said the intruder should be. Morrison moved continuously, using the F-35's passive sensor systems to track the precise location of every Iranian aircraft without emitting a single detectable signal himself. He knew where all 6 were. None of the 6 knew where he was. This is what $110 million per copy buys you. Not just performance. Asymmetric awareness. You see them. They search for you. At 4 hours 56 minutes local time, F-4 call sign Sierra 2 achieved fire control radar lock on Morrison's F-35. The lock tone hit Morrison's helmet-mounted display audio system like a sharp physical impact. He broke right immediately, deploying a pattern of chaff, radar-reflective metallic strips designed to create false radar returns and break a fire control solution. The lock broke in 4 seconds. 4 seconds of being painted by an Iranian fire control radar at combat lock settings was uncomfortable. It was also sufficient. The Rivet joint had recorded the complete electromagnetic signature of Sierra 2's upgraded fire control system. Frequency, pulse repetition rate, track history behavior. A fingerprint that American electronic warfare programmers could now write targeted countermeasures against, updating the threat libraries loaded into every F-35 and F-22 in the fleet. 4 seconds of lock. Enough data to update the radar warning receiver software of an entire generation of American stealth aircraft. At 4 hours 58 minutes local time, F-4 call sign Sierra 4 achieved fire control radar lock and held it. 7 seconds. 8. 9. Morrison was pulling 6 Gs of sustained evasive maneuvering, his vision narrowing from the gravitational load compressing blood away from his brain, his G-suit inflating automatically around his legs and abdomen to fight the physiological effects. Sierra 4's pilot was better than the others. His radar technique was disciplined. He was holding his solution through Morrison's brakes, updating his fire control geometry each time the F-35 changed vector. Aboard the Rivet joint, the duration of the lock triggered an automatic alert to Chen Station. Active lock sustained. Duration 9 seconds and counting. Major Karimi, monitoring tactical frequency and hearing his wingman's sustained lock tone, made the decision that the entire operation had been designed to provoke. Weapons free. At 4 hours 58 minutes and 23 seconds local time, an R-60 infrared-guided air-to-air missile left Sierra 4's port wing rail. The R-60 is a Soviet-designed short-range infrared homing missile. It is 4 feet 3 inches long. It weighs 66 pounds fully armed at launch. It accelerates to Mach 2.5, 2.5 times the speed of sound, within the first 3 seconds after motor ignition, and homes on engine heat signatures using a passive infrared seeker head that cannot be jammed electronically. It can only be fooled. Given that the F-35's two Pratt & Whitney F-135 engines produce a combined 43,000 pounds of thrust and generate exhaust temperatures detectable at several miles, the R-60 Seeker had a strong, clean signature to chase. Morrison had approximately 4 seconds between launch detection and the point where his remaining countermeasures would no longer create sufficient separation from his engine plume. Morrison's missile approach warning system announced the launch in the same calm synthesized voice it used for every alert. He deployed 4 magnesium flare cartridges simultaneously. Each flare burns at over 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, generating a thermal signature significantly brighter than a jet engine exhaust, designed to seduce an infrared seeker away from its intended target. Then Morrison broke hard left and pulled 7 Gs, the F-35's composite airframe groaning against aerodynamic loads it was built to handle but not designed to enjoy. The R-60 Seeker head momentarily acquired the brightest flare in its field of view. The missile's onboard guidance software evaluated the thermal signature, calculated its rate of movement relative to background temperature, determined the signature was too geometrically stationary to be a jet engine, and rejected it. The Seeker reacquired Morrison's engine exhausts. The upgraded Iranian firmware Sierra 4 was running had improved the missile's flare rejection logic. American intelligence had not known that either, until this moment. The missile was 600 meters behind Morrison and closing at 1,500 miles per hour. Morrison deployed 2 more flares and rolled the aircraft inverted, pitching the nose sharply toward the ocean surface 45,000 feet below in a diving rolling maneuver that maximized angular separation between his engine exhausts and the missile's current intercept geometry. 8 Gs now. His vision tunneling from the sustained load. His hands managing throttle and stick at the absolute edge of what the flight control computers would allow. The F-35's fly-by-wire system was simultaneously trying to keep the aircraft from departing controlled flight while Morrison was trying to make it do exactly that. The R-60 attempted to follow. Its small aerodynamic control surfaces deflected to maximum travel, trying to track an aircraft pulling 8 Gs through a diving inverted roll. The missile's control authority, designed for a target maneuvering at 5 Gs, was at its aerodynamic limit. Physics were doing what no electronic countermeasure could fully replicate. At some point a small missile simply cannot turn as fast as a large aircraft can. At 80 meters separation, the R-60's radar proximity fuse activated. The warhead detonated behind and slightly below Morrison's tail section, sending a fragmentation pattern forward in a cone. The F-35's aft fuselage absorbed multiple fragment strikes across the empennage and lower tail section. Warning lights cascaded across Morrison's cockpit displays. Engine temperature climbing. Hydraulic system pressure in the aft circuit dropping. The shock wave from the detonation jolted the aircraft hard enough that Morrison needed both hands on the stick for 2 full seconds to prevent departure from controlled flight. The aircraft was still flying. Abraham Lincoln, Viper 1. I've been hit. Proximity detonation. Aft fuselage. Aircraft is controllable. Egressing. The carrier's combat direction center went silent for 3 seconds. Viper 1, you are weapons free. Defend yourself. Authorization confirmed. Morrison ran his systems check. Engine running within abnormal but manageable parameters. Hydraulics degraded in the aft circuit but primary systems intact. Flight controls responding. Sluggish on one axis but responding. 180 nautical miles to the carrier. Damaged aircraft. Pursuing fighters who had already demonstrated they could not close the gap even in an undamaged F-35 at military power. And aboard the Rivet joint, 47 minutes of Iranian air defense data that was worth more to American strike planning than anything Morrison could accomplish by turning around and shooting back. Negative. Aircraft flyable. Weapons safe. Continuing egress. He pushed the throttle to full military power and pointed his nose toward open water, trailing a thin ribbon of smoke from the damaged aft section visible on his rear sensors against the lightning horizon. The remaining F-4s pursued for 7 minutes. Afterburner burning fuel at a rate that F-4 crews understand viscerally. The gap between an F-4 at maximum speed and an F-35C at military power is not a gap. It is a statement. At the point where Karimi's fuel state forced a decision, Morrison was 52 nautical miles ahead and increasing. Karimi made the correct call. All units, break off. Return to base. We cannot close. The Iranian pilots landed at Bandar Abbas declaring a successful defense of Iranian airspace. An intruder had been detected, intercepted, engaged with a missile, and chased beyond Iranian borders. The air defense forces had performed their mission. A report went up the chain in that spirit. The intruder was driven off. A missile was fired. The integrity of Iranian airspace was upheld. Iran had just handed American intelligence a fully annotated map of every air defense system they possessed, marked with frequencies, locations, and capability upgrades, and filed it under victory. Morrison trapped aboard Abraham Lincoln at 5 hours 31 minutes local time. The arrested landing sent a jolt through the damaged hydraulic system that illuminated 2 more warning lights and produced a sound from the aft section that the maintenance crew described later as concerning. His debrief lasted 22 minutes. The critical questions were answered quickly. How many aircraft? 6 F-4s. How many locks? Multiple, at least 4 separate fire control locks. Missile fired. 1 R-60. Proximity detonation at approximately 80 meters. Aircraft condition. Flyable with maintenance required. Crew condition. Uninjured. Then the question that mattered most to everyone in the room. Did the Rivet joint get it? He was right to be confident. The RC-135V landed at Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar at 8 hours local time. NSA analysts were waiting on the ramp. Data drives were transferred before the aircraft's engines reached idle. Processing began immediately and continued without pause through the morning. The intelligence picture that emerged redefined the threat environment. Iranian F-4 fire control radars were running upgraded firmware demonstrating 15 to 18% improved tracking capability against low observable aircraft targets compared to every previous American assessment. The source of the upgrade was unclear from signals intelligence alone, but the capability was now confirmed and documented. 3 L-band active electronically scanned array radar systems of types not previously characterized in any American intelligence database had activated during the engagement. L-band radar operates at frequencies that interact with stealth aircraft geometry differently than the X-band and S-band systems most air defense networks rely on, making it specifically effective against low observable designs. American planners had assessed Iranian radar holdings based on years of collection. Iran had kept these 3 systems in emission silence for months, possibly longer, never activating them except in genuine emergencies. They had activated all 3 to track one F-35 on an 18-minute transit. The complete Iranian air defense communications architecture across the southern sector had been recorded. Frequencies, encryption protocols, command and control relationships between ground radar stations, intercept controllers, and fighter units. The decision cycle from initial detection to scramble authorization. Every link in the chain documented. Iranian tactical response time from first confirmed contact to fighter intercept was 11 minutes flat. Previous American assessments had estimated 14 to 17 minutes. The actual number mattered for strike planning purposes in ways that were immediately obvious to everyone reviewing the assessment. The strike authorization reached Admiral Catherine Mercer commanding 5th Fleet before noon. Iran had fired a missile at an American military aircraft operating in international airspace, and the specific systems used to enable that engagement had now been precisely located. The targeting solution was as clean as targeting solutions get. The assets that enabled the attack on Morrison had identified themselves completely. The response was proportional, specific, and immediate. At 6 hours 15 minutes local time on February 20th, USS Porter and USS Gettysburg launched 16 Tomahawk Block V cruise missiles in 2 rapid sequential salvos. The Tomahawk Block V is a subsonic land attack cruise missile, 18 feet 3 inches long, weighing 2,900 pounds at launch, powered by a Williams F-107 turbofan engine that produces 600 pounds of thrust and carries the missile at 550 miles per hour across ranges exceeding 900 miles. The Block V variant carries a 1,000-pound unitary warhead and navigates using a combination of GPS guidance, terrain contour matching, and in the terminal phase, digital scene matching area correlation that compares real-time sensor imagery against stored target photographs to achieve accuracy within a meter. Each missile costs approximately $2 million. The 16-missile salvo represented a $32 million investment. The 3 L-band radar systems it was targeting had collectively cost Iran an estimated $380 million to develop, procure, install, conceal, and keep operational through years of sanctions and import restrictions. Iran had kept them hidden for months. It cost them 11 minutes of activation to lose all 3 permanently. The missiles flew terrain-following routes at altitudes between 50 and 100 feet, threading through coastal geography at 550 miles per hour, arriving at their targets at 6 hours 47 minutes local time within a 90-second window. For Tomahawk struck each of the 3 L-band radar sites, destroying antenna arrays, control vans, power generation equipment, cooling systems and communications nodes in coordinated impacts that left nothing operational. The radar installations Iran had concealed for months, only revealing their existence by activating them to track Morrison, were rubble before the sun was fully up. 4 additional missiles struck the Air Defense Command Center at Bandar Abbas, penetrating the reinforced concrete structure through roof apertures and the main communications mast. collapsing the facility that had coordinated the previous night's intercept. The 4 remaining missiles divided between 2 surface-to-air missile battery positions that had been active and trackable during Morrison's transit, destroying launch vehicles, radar trucks, and pre-loaded missile reloads before any of the battery crews understood they were under attack. 47 minutes after the last Tomahawk impacted its target, 8 F-35C fighters from Abraham Lincoln's Air Wing crossed the Iranian coastline at high altitude. Iranian air defense radar coverage across the southern sector was reduced to near zero. The aircraft they could not detect were carrying 32 GBU, 53 Stormbreaker small-diameter bombs, a tri-mode guided munition that combines GPS, imaging infrared, and millimeter-wave radar into a single seeker package capable of achieving 1-meter accuracy against stationary and moving targets in any weather condition. 4 bombs per aircraft. 4 aircraft per target set. Bandar Abbas Air Base at 7 hours 12 minutes local time received all 32. 8 Stormbreakers penetrated the primary aircraft maintenance hangar through the roof in a 2-second impact sequence. 2 upgraded F-4 Phantoms detonated on the maintenance floor from direct hits. 3 more were buried under the structural collapse of the hangar roof and primary support beams. The fuel depot holding approximately 500,000 gallons of aviation kerosene erupted in a sustained fireball visible from 30 miles away and rising 10,000 feet into the morning sky. The ammunition bunker storing air-to-air missiles, unguided rockets, and general-purpose bombs sustained penetrating hits that triggered 18 minutes of continuous secondary explosions as stored munitions cooked off in sequence. The maintenance facility where Iranian avionics technicians had installed the upgraded radar firmware that had allowed Sierra 4 to hold lock on Morrison for 9 seconds was collapsed to its foundation. The 6 fighters Iran had launched as its victorious intercept force were either destroyed on the ground, damaged beyond near-term operational use, or parked at a base that no longer functioned as a military installation in any meaningful sense. The damage assessment briefing that reached the Supreme Leader's desk contained figures that required explanation. 3 advanced radar systems destroyed. 1 air defense sector command center eliminated. 2 surface-to-air missile batteries removed from the order of battle. 1 major airbase rendered non-operational with 5 aircraft destroyed and the maintenance infrastructure supporting the entire southern fighter wing gone. 67 Iranian military personnel killed. All in a 16-minute window of Tomahawk strikes followed by a strike package that crossed Iranian airspace without triggering a single active radar response because the radars capable of detecting it had been destroyed in the preceding hour. And then the question that had no comfortable answer. How did they know exactly which systems to target? The answer required explaining the full sequence. An American stealth aircraft had deliberately entered Iranian airspace and made itself marginally detectable. Iranian controllers had activated every concealed system they possessed to track it. American reconnaissance assets in international airspace had recorded every emission, every frequency, every location, every capability in real time. Then American cruise missiles had used that recording as a targeting package. Iran had spent years and hundreds of millions of dollars concealing 3 L-band radar systems designed to defeat American stealth technology. They revealed all 3 in 11 minutes trying to shoot down an aircraft that was sent specifically to make them try. The mission was never the fighter. The fighter was the key. The mission was always the map. Morrison flew 180 nautical miles back to a carrier with fragments in his tail section, landed with systems degraded but controlled, and walked off the aircraft with the most complete Iranian air defense intelligence package American analysts had processed in years. He was shot at on purpose. He survived through skill and the aerodynamic limits of a 1960s-era missile seeker. He declined to shoot back because he understood the arithmetic precisely. The intelligence was worth more than the satisfaction. Always was. The whole point of the mission was what came after. Iran took their best shot at American stealth aviation and wrote the strike package themselves. If you enjoyed this video, check out our other video on the most expensive air defense systems ever built. Bye for now.